In the vast expanse of the universe, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless velvet canvas, there existed a world unlike any other. This planet, known as Zarathia, was home to a civilization of beings whose beauty and grace were legendary throughout the galaxy. Among them stood Princess Elra, the crown jewel of her people, whose radiant presence could light up even the darkest corners of space. Elra's physical appearance was nothing short of breathtaking. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent glow that seemed to dance between shades of silver and lavender, while her eyes sparkled with the depth of twin galaxies. Long silken hair flowed down her back in waves of liquid amethyst, catching and refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Yet beyond her striking features lay an air of regality and wisdom far beyond her years, cultivated through centuries of royal upbringing and diplomatic responsibilities. As the sole heir to the Zarathian throne, Elra carried the weight of her entire civilization on her delicate shoulders. Her days were filled with council meetings, treaty negotiations, and ceremonial duties that left little room for personal pursuits. The pressures of leadership had instilled in her a careful distance from those around her, creating an invisible barrier between the princess and her subjects. While revered and admired by all, she remained an enigmatic figure, always maintaining a polite but impenetrable reserve. This aloofness wasn't born of arrogance or disdain. Rather, it stemmed from a deep-seated understanding of her position and the potential consequences of forming attachments. Every interaction, every smile, every word spoken by the princess could be interpreted as a political statement or strategic move. Thus, she had learned to keep her true emotions carefully guarded, presenting only the composed facade expected of royalty. Even among her closest advisors and family members, Elra maintained this practiced distance, never allowing anyone to glimpse the vulnerable young woman beneath the regal exterior. Her role as a diplomat particularly demanded this emotional restraint. As Zarathia navigated increasingly complex intergalactic relations, the princess found herself at the center of numerous high-stakes negotiations. Each encounter required precise control over her expressions and reactions, lest she inadvertently reveal too much or create unintended alliances. This constant vigilance had become second nature to Elra, transforming her natural warmth into a carefully metered commodity dispensed only when absolutely necessary. Yet despite her practiced attachment, there lingered within Elra a quiet yearning for genuine connection. She would often find herself gazing out of the crystalline palace windows, watching as starships from distant worlds came and went, each carrying stories and lives so different from her own. The universe beyond Zarathia called to her with promises of adventure and discovery, but duty kept her firmly rooted to her throne. And so, she continued to maintain her distance, preserving both her dignity and her heart against the inevitable demands of her station. On the other side of the galaxy, orbiting a modest yellow star, Earth continued its steady rotation, largely unaware of the cosmic dramas unfolding in distant systems. Here lived Marcus Chen, a man whose life couldn't have been more different from that of the alien princess. A skilled engineer working at one of Earth's premier space research facilities, Marcus spent his days surrounded by the hum of machinery and the glow of computer screens, piecing together humanity's tentative steps into the great unknown. Marcus's journey to this point had been anything but straightforward. Born to immigrant parents who had sacrificed everything for their children's future, he grew up in a small apartment above his father's struggling repair shop. From an early age, he showed an uncanny ability to understand how things worked, spending hours dismantling and reassembling everything from kitchen appliances to old radios. His hands, though calloused from years of work, possessed a remarkable delicacy when it came to manipulating intricate components and circuits. The walls of his modest apartment told the story of his passions. Shelves lined with technical manuals shared space with sketches of theoretical spacecraft designs. Unlike many of his colleagues who pursued space exploration through academic channels, Marcus had earned his place through sheer determination and practical experience. His breakthrough came when he developed an innovative propulsion system using recycled materials, catching the attention of senior researchers who recognized his unique talent. Despite his professional achievements, Marcus remained remarkably humble. His easygoing nature and quick wit made him popular among his peers, though he often found himself restless during formal gatherings and scientific symposia. He preferred the company of his tools and blueprints to elaborate social functions, finding comfort in the tangible world of engineering problems and solutions. What set Marcus apart from others in his field was his insatiable curiosity about alien life. While many of his colleagues focused solely on technological advancements, Marcus spent countless nights studying xenobiology reports and cultural analyses of known extraterrestrial species. He believed that understanding different forms of intelligence would be crucial to humanity's expansion into space, and this belief drove him to learn multiple alien languages in his spare time. His work uniform, always slightly oil-stained and rumpled, spoke volumes about his dedication. Often working late into the night, he would lose himself in projects that combined mechanical engineering with biological interfaces, dreaming of the day when humans might truly connect with other intelligent species. This passion extended beyond mere professional interest. Marcus felt a deep conviction that meaningful communication with alien civilizations could help solve many of Earth's most pressing problems. The facility where Marcus worked buzzed with activity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Scientists and engineers from around the globe collaborated on projects ranging from asteroid mining technology to experimental communication devices. It was here, amidst the controlled chaos of human ingenuity, that fate would set its wheels in motion, preparing Marcus for an encounter that would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself and the universe. The convergence of these two vastly different lives began with a routine diplomatic mission that should have been unremarkable. Zarathian leaders had agreed to send a delegation to Earth to discuss potential trade agreements regarding rare minerals found only on their planet. Princess Elra, having recently taken on more responsibilities in interstellar relations, insisted on leading the mission herself. Her advisors argued against it, citing security concerns and the protocol of sending lower-ranking diplomats for preliminary negotiations. But something about Earth's blue-green sphere, captured in detailed scans sent by previous reconnaissance missions, had captivated her imagination. Earth's space agency, eager to establish stronger ties with advanced civilizations, prepared an elaborate welcome ceremony at their orbital research station, the very facility where Marcus worked. The event was scheduled to coincide with the completion of a new experimental communication array, a project Marcus had poured months of effort into developing. As technicians scurried to finalize preparations, Marcus found himself tasked with overseeing last-minute adjustments to the array, ensuring it would function perfectly during the historic meeting. On the day of the Zarathian arrival, tension crackled through the station's corridors. Security protocols had been tripled, and every staff member received strict instructions to maintain professional decorum. Marcus, however, found himself unusually distracted. The prospect of meeting actual aliens, beings from another world, stirred something deep within him. He had studied countless species through reports and videos, but this would be his first direct encounter. As he ran final diagnostic tests on the communication equipment, his mind raced with questions about their culture, their thoughts, their way of being. Princess Elra materialized on the station's observation deck in a shimmer of light, the Zarathian equivalent of a shuttle docking procedure. Through the reinforced glass, Marcus caught his first glimpse of the alien delegation. His breath caught in his throat as his eyes locked onto the figure at the center of the group, a vision of ethereal beauty that defied his expectations. The princess moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly, her luminous presence casting a subtle glow across the sterile metallic surroundings of the space station. Protocol dictated that all personnel maintain a respectful distance until formal introductions were made. Marcus watched as Elra surveyed the assembled humans with careful, measured glances. Her expression remained perfectly composed, betraying none of her thoughts as she listened to her ambassador exchange formal greetings with Earth's representatives. Yet something about her demeanor, perhaps the slight tilt of her head as she observed the human delegates, or the way her eyes lingered just a moment too long on certain faces, suggested a curiosity that matched his own. Standing behind the protective barrier of monitoring equipment, Marcus struggled to focus on his technical duties. His fingers hovered over control panels as he tried to reconcile the reality before him with everything he had ever imagined about alien contact. The princess's beauty, while striking, wasn't what held his attention. Rather, it was the subtle interplay of confidence and vulnerability in her posture, the way she seemed to be taking in every detail of this unprecedented meeting while maintaining her regal composure. As the formal proceedings began, Marcus noticed how Elra positioned herself slightly apart from her entourage, maintaining a careful distance from both her own people and the humans. This physical separation mirrored the emotional barriers he had read about in diplomatic briefings, the characteristic Zarathian approach to interspecies relations. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that behind those carefully constructed walls lay someone who, like him, was profoundly affected by this momentous encounter. The communication array he had helped design hummed softly in the background as translators began their work, converting Earth's languages into the complex harmonic patterns favored by Zarathians. Marcus's technical expertise told him to focus on monitoring signal strength and clarity, but his human instincts kept drawing his attention back to the princess. There was something about the way she occasionally glanced toward the technical stations, her galactic eyes seeming to search for something, or someone among the gathered humans. Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously as the formalities dragged on. Marcus found himself torn between professional responsibility and an overwhelming desire to somehow bridge the gap between their species. The princess's practiced distance, while understandable given her position, felt like a challenge to his deeply held belief that genuine connection was possible across even the widest cultural divides. As the ceremony progressed, he became increasingly aware of how carefully she controlled every movement, every gesture, every glance, and how desperately he wanted to see what lay beneath that perfect composure. The formalities stretched into what felt like an eternity, each moment weighted with unspoken possibilities. Marcus's hands, usually so steady when adjusting delicate instruments, trembled slightly as he performed routine checks on the communication array. His mind raced with calculations and probabilities, not of technical failures but of social ones. The princess's aloof demeanor, while expected, gnawed at his conviction that meaningful connections could transcend species boundaries. Every diplomatic phrase exchanged between officials seemed to widen the gap between human and Zarathian, turning what should have been a historic meeting into a carefully choreographed dance of formality. Unable to shake his growing frustration, Marcus found himself making split-second decisions that defied every protocol he'd been trained to follow. As the princess passed near his station during a ceremonial circuit of the observation deck, something inside him snapped. Whether it was the accumulated tension of months of preparation, the intoxicating proximity of an alien civilization, or simply the overwhelming urge to break through the princess's carefully maintained barriers, Marcus acted on pure instinct. "Hello, Cutie," he blurted out, his voice cutting through the formal atmosphere like a meteor entering Earth's atmosphere. The words, translated instantly by the array he had helped build, emerged in a cascade of melodic tones that rippled through the chamber. Time seemed to freeze as every head turned toward him, including those of his horrified colleagues. The princess stopped mid-step, her perfect composure shattering like a dropped crystal. To call her reaction unexpected would be an understatement. Elra's iridescent skin flushed with colors Marcus hadn't seen before, a swirling pattern of deep purples and electric blues that spread across her cheeks and down her neck. Her luminous eyes widened, pupils contracting in surprise before dilating wildly. For a moment, she looked less like a regal princess and more like a startled creature caught in unexpected circumstances. Her diplomatic mask slipped entirely, revealing raw emotion that transcended species barriers. The transformation was immediate and profound. Gone was the carefully controlled dignitary. In her place stood a being visibly struggling with unfamiliar feelings. Elra's hands fluttered uncertainly at her sides, and her usual graceful movements became hesitant, almost shy. She took a small step backward, then forward again, as if unsure whether to retreat or advance. The rest of her delegation froze, clearly as shocked by her reaction as everyone else in the room. What followed was perhaps even more astonishing. The princess's bioluminescent markings began pulsing in rhythm with her accelerated breathing, creating a spectacular display that illuminated the entire observation deck. Her normally measured speech patterns dissolved into a series of soft, musical notes, the Zarathian equivalent of nervous laughter. She attempted to respond, her translator emitting a string of garbled phrases that suggested she was trying to process multiple responses simultaneously. Marcus watched, transfixed, as the princess's attempts to regain her composure only seemed to deepen her reaction. Her glowing complexion darkened to a rich amethyst shade, indicating what his hastily accessed cultural database identified as extreme embarrassment mixed with unexpected pleasure. The rigid distance she had maintained throughout the ceremony evaporated completely, replaced by an almost childlike vulnerability that made her seem more approachable than any royal protocol could have achieved. Perhaps most remarkable was how the princess's reaction seemed to trigger a chain reaction among her delegation. Other Zarathians began showing signs of suppressed amusement, their own bioluminescent patterns flickering in patterns that suggested they were fighting not to laugh outright. The carefully orchestrated diplomatic atmosphere dissolved into something far more genuine and unpredictable, leaving Marcus standing at the center of a moment that would likely be discussed in diplomatic circles for generations to come. The princess's reaction created ripples that spread far beyond the initial moment of embarrassment. As the formal proceedings resumed, albeit in a considerably more relaxed atmosphere, Marcus noticed subtle changes in Elra's behavior. She no longer maintained her previous distance. instead finding reasons to pass near his station more frequently than strictly necessary. Each time their paths crossed, her bioluminescent patterns would shift through a spectrum of colors, suggesting a complex array of emotions that defied simple interpretation. Other humans began noticing the change as well. Dr. Elena Martinez, the lead xenopsychologist on the project, approached Marcus during a break in the ceremonies. "You've done something remarkable," she whispered, her eyes following the princess's movements. Her reaction suggests she's experiencing something akin to human infatuation, but amplified through their unique physiological responses. Those color patterns. They're broadcasting her emotional state to everyone in the room. Indeed, Elra's usual diplomatic precision seemed compromised by her newfound awareness of Marcus's presence. During subsequent discussions, she would occasionally lose her train of thought when he entered her line of sight, her melodic voice faltering mid-sentence. The Zarathian delegation handled these moments with remarkable grace, attributing them to the stress of negotiations, but Marcus could see the truth in the way Elra's attendants exchanged knowing glances. The impact extended beyond mere personal interactions. As news of the incident spread through the station, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. Human staff who had previously felt intimidated by the alien visitors now approached them with greater ease, encouraged by the princess's apparent vulnerability. Conversations that had been strictly formal began incorporating more casual elements, with both species showing willingness to share cultural insights and personal anecdotes. Marcus found himself becoming an unofficial liaison between the groups, his initial breach of protocol ironically positioning him as the perfect bridge between worlds. The princess's obvious interest in him seemed to give other humans permission to express their own curiosity about Zarathian culture. Questions about their society, traditions, and daily life flowed more freely, while the aliens appeared increasingly comfortable sharing aspects of their civilization that had previously been considered too sensitive for diplomatic discussion. However, the situation wasn't without its complications. Some members of the Zarathian delegation seemed concerned about their princess's uncharacteristic behavior, occasionally pulling her aside for private consultations. These discussions, conducted in rapid bursts of harmonic tones that overwhelmed the translation systems, hinted at deeper implications Marcus couldn't fully grasp. The princess would emerge from these conferences with renewed determination, attempting to restore some measure of formality to the proceedings, only to find her resolve melting away whenever Marcus caught her eye. The ripple effects reached beyond immediate social dynamics. Technical teams found themselves collaborating more effectively, with Zarathian experts offering insights into their technology that had previously been withheld. Scientific exchanges gained depth and authenticity, moving beyond cautious data sharing to genuine problem-solving partnerships. Even the catering staff reported increased success in adapting Earth cuisine to Zarathian tastes, as both groups became more willing to experiment and share preferences. Yet beneath these positive developments lay a growing tension. Traditionalists among both delegations viewed the changing atmosphere with concern. Formal diplomatic channels struggled to contain the flood of informal interactions, while security protocols strained under the weight of increasingly casual encounters. The careful balance of power and protocol that had governed interspecies relations for decades threatened to shift fundamentally, all because of a single, spontaneous moment of human informality. As the days passed, Marcus found himself drawn deeper into the evolving situation. The princess's reaction had opened doors that neither side had dared to unlock before, creating opportunities for understanding that transcended traditional diplomatic boundaries. But with these opportunities came challenges that neither Marcus nor Elra could have anticipated, forcing them to navigate uncharted territory where personal feelings and official duties intertwined in complex ways. The aftermath of that fateful greeting unfolded in ways that defied conventional diplomatic wisdom. Official meetings continued according to schedule, yet their character had fundamentally transformed. Where once sterile conference rooms hosted carefully scripted exchanges, now they became arenas for genuine dialogue. The princess, still struggling to maintain her composure whenever Marcus entered the room, began introducing subtle changes to the negotiation process itself. She proposed breaks in formal proceedings for what she termed cultural exchange sessions, where humans and Zarathians could interact in less structured environments. These sessions revealed fascinating insights into Zarathian society. During one such gathering, Elra demonstrated their species' unique method of artistic expression through bioluminescent displays, her patterns unconsciously responding to Marcus's presence with increasingly complex designs. Members of her delegation joined in, creating a symphony of light that communicated emotions and ideas far more effectively than words ever could. Humans, in turn, shared their music and visual arts, leading to unexpected collaborations that blended Earth's creative traditions with Zarathian biological capabilities. Technical discussions evolved similarly. Engineering teams discovered that Zarathian technology operated on principles that resonated with human intuition in surprising ways. When Marcus explained Earth's approach to problem-solving through physical models and tactile demonstrations, Zarathian experts responded with enthusiastic participation, their usual reserve dissolving in the face of practical collaboration. The princess herself became particularly interested in Earth's mechanical innovations, often lingering near Marcus's workstation to observe his methods. However, these developments brought complications that tested both species' adaptability. Traditionalist factions on both sides voiced growing concerns about the blurred lines between official and personal interactions. Several senior Zarathian diplomats attempted to intervene, suggesting alternative leaders for the delegation, but Princess Elra remained steadfast in her position. Her bioluminescent patterns, once carefully controlled, now regularly betrayed her emotional state, challenging long-held beliefs about proper royal conduct. The human team faced similar internal debates. While many embraced the new dynamic, others worried about the precedent being set. Official records of the meetings documented unprecedented levels of cooperation, but also noted instances where personal feelings seemed to influence decision-making processes. Marcus found himself caught between his technical responsibilities and his unintended role as a catalyst for change, often staying late to ensure that professional boundaries were maintained even as social ones continued to dissolve. Most intriguing was how the princess's reaction had sparked a broader cultural exchange. Younger Zarathians in the delegation began mirroring her more open approach, while human team members adopted elements of Zarathian nonverbal communication. The station's corridors buzzed with hybrid conversations, part spoken language and part bioluminescent expression, creating a new lingua franca that bridged their species' differences. This organic development challenged established theories about interspecies communication, suggesting that emotional authenticity might be more effective than carefully constructed diplomacy. Yet beneath these surface-level transformations lay deeper implications. The princess's inability to maintain her usual diplomatic distance raised questions about Zarathian social structures and the true nature of their monarchy. Her persistent blushes and involuntary color shifts suggested vulnerabilities in their society that neither species had acknowledged before. Similarly, human participants found themselves questioning their own assumptions about alien psychology and the universality of emotional responses. As the mission progressed, Marcus and Elra found themselves at the center of an experiment neither had intended to conduct, testing the boundaries of interspecies understanding through a combination of technical collaboration and unguarded emotional expression. Their interactions, while carefully monitored by both sides, continued to evolve in unexpected directions, each encounter building upon the last to create a relationship that defied categorization. The original purpose of the mission, mineral trade negotiations, receded into the background as both species grappled with the implications of their newfound connection. The evolving relationship between Marcus and Princess Elra began manifesting in increasingly complex ways. During technical demonstrations, when Marcus would explain engineering concepts using his characteristic hands-on approach, Elra's bioluminescent patterns would synchronize with his gestures, creating an unintentional but beautiful visual accompaniment to his explanations. This phenomenon drew the attention of both human scientists and Zarathian observers, leading to impromptu studies of how emotional responses could enhance cross-species communication. Their interactions became a delicate dance of professional necessity and personal attraction. In formal settings, Elra maintained her diplomatic composure, but her eyes would invariably seek out Marcus in the crowd, her iridescent skin subtly shifting through a spectrum of colors that suggested a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. During breaks, she would find excuses to visit his workstation, asking detailed questions about Earth's technology that gradually gave way to more personal inquiries about human customs and emotions. Marcus, for his part, discovered that his usual easygoing nature had to adapt to the complexities of interspecies courtship. He learned to interpret the princess's color changes and harmonic vocalizations, developing an intuitive understanding of her moods that transcended the limitations of the translation systems. Their conversations became a blend of spoken language, visual cues, and shared silences that communicated more than words ever could. He found himself modifying his speech patterns, slowing down his delivery and emphasizing certain phrases to create harmonics that seemed to resonate with her species' communication style. The challenges of their differing backgrounds manifested in unexpected ways. Elra's royal status required her to adhere to strict protocols that sometimes conflicted with her growing attachment to Marcus. She would initiate a conversation only to suddenly withdraw when reminded of her position, her bioluminescence flashing erratically as she struggled with conflicting impulses. Marcus, accustomed to more straightforward human relationships, found himself walking a fine line between respecting her boundaries and pursuing the connection they both clearly desired. Their technical collaborations provided a safe space for these interactions to develop. When working together on modifications to the communication array, they could focus on shared goals while gradually building trust. Elra proved to have an impressive grasp of engineering principles, though her approach differed significantly from human methods. She seemed to intuit solutions through patterns of light and sound, while Marcus relied on tactile experimentation. Their complementary skills led to breakthroughs neither could have achieved alone, creating a professional synergy that mirrored their growing personal bond. Yet obstacles continued to arise. Traditionalist elements in both delegations grew increasingly vocal about the inappropriate nature of their interactions. Zarathian elders expressed concern about the princess's emotional displays, while human officials worried about the impact on formal negotiations. Security protocols tightened around their interactions, requiring chaperones and documentation of every encounter. Despite these restrictions, or perhaps because of them, their connection deepened through stolen glances and carefully coded messages conveyed through technical discussions. The situation reached a critical point when Elra began incorporating elements of human expression into her royal duties. During official ceremonies, she would unconsciously adopt gestures and facial expressions she had observed in Marcus, causing consternation among her advisors. Her diplomatic speeches started including references to human concepts of friendship and mutual understanding, deviating from the traditionally formal Zarathian rhetoric. These changes, while alarming to some, seemed to resonate with younger members of both delegations, who began emulating this more personal approach to interspecies relations. Through it all, Marcus found himself grappling with the magnitude of their connection. What had started as a spontaneous moment of human informality had blossomed into something far more significant, a bridge between species that challenged established norms and protocols. Each interaction with Elra forced him to reconsider his assumptions about alien psychology, emotional expression, and the nature of connection itself. He discovered depths to his own character he hadn't known existed, pushed by the princess's unwavering honesty, even when that honesty manifested in uncontrollable blushes and involuntary harmonic responses. Their relationship evolved into a complex tapestry of professional collaboration, cultural exchange, and personal attraction, each thread strengthening the others. The princess's initial reaction had opened doors that neither species had known existed, creating possibilities that transcended their individual roles as diplomat and engineer. As they navigated this uncharted territory, they found themselves not just representing their respective species, but pioneering a new model of interspecies understanding that neither could have anticipated when their paths first crossed. The culmination of Marcus and Elra's unconventional relationship approached with unavoidable momentum. News arrived that the Zarathian delegation would soon depart Earth, their diplomatic mission nearing its official conclusion. This impending departure cast a shadow over their daily interactions, adding urgency to every shared moment and significance to every exchanged glance. The princess's bioluminescent patterns grew more erratic, fluctuating between hopeful anticipation and anxious uncertainty as she wrestled with the implications of leaving behind the connection she had formed. Marcus found himself working longer hours, pouring his energy into joint projects that might extend their time together. The communication array he had helped build now served as more than just a technical achievement. It had become a symbol of their connection, processing not just language but the complex emotions that flowed between them. Each adjustment he made to the system felt like a desperate attempt to preserve something intangible yet vital, knowing that soon the distance between their worlds would test everything they had built. The station buzzed with preparations for the farewell ceremony, but beneath the surface activity lay a current of unresolved questions. Both delegations had noticed the transformation in their relationship dynamics, and whispers of a potential diplomatic crisis began circulating. Could a human Zarathian connection survive the vast distances between their worlds? Would Elra's changed behavior affect Zarathian politics? How would Earth's government view this unprecedented development in interspecies relations? As the final days counted down, Marcus and Elra found themselves stealing moments together in increasingly creative ways. During technical inspections, they would linger in maintenance corridors, communicating through a combination of touch-based engineering discussions and silent emotional exchanges. The princess's attendants, once vigilant guardians of protocol, now turned blind eyes to these encounters, recognizing that something extraordinary was unfolding. Yet the pressure mounted from all sides. Senior Zarathian diplomats pressed Elra to sever ties cleanly, warning of potential unrest if her emotional attachment became public knowledge back home. Earth's authorities, while intrigued by the positive impact on negotiations, worried about setting a precedent that could complicate future diplomatic missions. Both species faced the uncomfortable realization that their carefully constructed systems for interspecies interaction weren't equipped to handle genuine emotional connections. The situation reached a tipping point when Elra requested an unscheduled meeting with Earth's diplomatic leadership. Her request, transmitted through official channels but accompanied by unmistakable emotional signals, suggested she intended to address the elephant in the room, their developing relationship. Marcus watched as she prepared for this confrontation, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through complex sequences that seemed to mirror her internal struggle. The outcome of this meeting would determine not just their personal futures, but potentially reshape how their species approached interspecies relations. With departure looming, both Marcus and Elra understood that their next actions would define not only their personal destinies but also the future of human-Zarathian relations. The choices before them carried weight far beyond their individual desires, touching upon diplomatic protocols, cultural expectations, and the very foundations of interspecies understanding they had helped pioneer. As they stood on the threshold of decision, the path forward remained obscured by uncertainties that neither science nor diplomacy had yet addressed.